Hey everybody, this is John for Nexus MTG, continuing our Burn Month breakdown here with the Burn versus Tron matchup in Modern. This is kind of a prevalent matchup now, with Tron kind of taking center stage at the recent Mythic Championship, and it's a deck that's probably a fairly sizable dog to burn. If the London Mulligan rule ends up going into place, the matchup does get a little bit closer because Tron more consistently hits turn 3 Tron with the Mulligan rule, etc. Something to keep in mind as we're going through the breakdown. And as a friendly reminder, if you like what you're seeing on the channels, please consider subscribing, give us a thumbs up, and leave a constructive comment down below. So, Burn, we all know it, we all love it. This is the deck that we've been kind of featuring this month, and we featured on the channel throughout. Your usual monster, Swiss Spear Goblin Guide, Eidolon package, along with Skewer the Critics as the spectacle spell of choice, light up the stage in this particular version. Boros Charm and Lightning Helix, no Skull Cracks in the main, which is notable in this matchup, as well as Lightning Bolts and Lava Spikes. Sideboard, Path to Exile and Skull Cracks being your primary cards to pay attention to in this matchup. Rest in Peace and Smash to Smithereens can play roles. Rest in Peace, obviously not in this matchup. Smash can come in against things like Wormcoil Engine and trying to catch an Expedition map or so, or Walking Ballista, blowing them up. But beyond that, not a ton of cards in the matchup. Usually Path and Skullcrack, and then whatever type of Shatter effects. Tron, goal is to assemble Urza's Tron, Urza's Power Plant, Urza's Tower. Get your 7 mana, drop your Wormcoil Engine or your Karn on turn 3, and try to out-bomb your opponent by top-decking these big bombs. A bunch of Chromatic Stars and Spheres and Relics to cycle through your deck. Wormcoil Engine's pretty good against creature-based decks. Karn pretty good against any type of mid-range and control deck. World Breaker obviously gets a land as a 5/7 with reach. Walking Ballista can help clear up the Weenie Swarms as well as being an additional threat. Oblivion Stone helps clear the board, and Ugin the Spirit Dragon also pretty good against a lot of the go-wide strategies. Sideboard key cards in this matchup are Nature's Claims, Thragtusks, and Thought-Knot Seers, so Tron decks usually have a lot to bring in the post-board games. We'll get into that here in a bit. Key cards for the burn deck, 1-drops, 1-drops, 1-drops. You need to get out, pressure your opponent before they start dropping Wormcoil Engines and Karns. Often, quite frankly, if they don't have a Wormcoil Engine on turn 3 or 4, even Burn's most mediocre draws can sometimes get there, as long as you don't either flood out on either lands or Searing Blaze effects. Karn can potentially pick off a land light draw, but the key is to get out early on the board and continue to pressure them with creatures and burn spells so they can't possibly deal with it all. Key sideboard cards, Skullcrack and Path to Exile are the key ones. Skullcrack against their myriad of life gain effects, Nature's Claims, Thragtusks, any of that kind of sort of like. Path to Exile, very important for clearing out specifically Wormcoil Engine, as it's very difficult to kill Wormcoil Engine the conventional way. And then one other card that can come in is Shatter Effects, can help blank a Wormcoil Engine attack or attacking into a Wormcoil Engine. Can also randomly blank a Walking Ballista or some type of Expedition map sometimes, so whatever that particular type is. Things like Smash to Smithereens, Destructive Revelry, and to a lesser extent Cindervines can come in. Burn's gameplay in the matchup, game 1, as we've already kind of covered, get on the board early. Eidolon's pretty decent on the play, as long as they don't have the turn 1 map into turn 2 second Tron piece, crack for map, turn 3 Tron. If they're on their Ancient Stirrings or Sylvan Scrying or that kind of plan where they're having to cycle through a bunch of things to find what they're looking for, Eidolon can be quite good. Otherwise, especially on the draw, it can be a huge liability, slowing down your clock. And you gotta learn how to play around Wormcoil Engines, especially in game 1, when you may not have access to Skullcracks and such. One thing you can do is block with one of your own creatures, kill it before combat damage to prevent them from getting life gain. And if you happen to run Skullcrack in the main deck, understand how to play around either their attacking with Wormcoils and blanking the life gain, or attacking in with your own creatures and blanking the life gain. Postboard, much of the same thing. 1-drops, 1-drops, 1-drops. Eidolon and Searing Blaze in particular are both kind of meh. Those are the cards you look to board out if you have enough cards to. And things to play around. Watch out for Nature's Claim on an artifact, gain them 4 life, or Thragtusk coming in, gaining them 5 life, and having a rather big pain in the butt to get out of the way. And another thing to watch about playing role 4, and it's kind of a non-bow when playing against Thragtusk specifically, is you need to empty your hand as much as possible to play around Thought-Knot Seer, which is often a card they'll bring in, which, they can play on like turn 3 or turn 4. Take a card, have a 4/4 body in the way. So that is a card to note and to play around as best as you can. Get down to 1 or 2 cards and non-land cards in hand, that way you can empty your hand when they cast a Thought-Knot Seer. If they have the dream thing of Thought-Knot Seer into Thragtusk, you're in a lot of trouble if you're not being quickly able to close out the game. But that's pretty much the game plan. Game 1, as long as you have a reasonable draw, you're usually pretty favored, especially if you're on the play. And then post-board games, the matchup gets a lot closer. Key Tron cards in Game 1. The only card that really matters outside of a landlight draw, with being Karn Liberated in that particular case, is Wormcoil Engine. A lot of the decks have gone up to a 4 of. Combat a lot of what's going on in the format. And the other key card is assembling Tron on turn 3 and powering out a quick Wormcoil Engine or Karn Liberated. If Tron is on one of their kind of diddle-daddle around and get to Tron on turn 4, it's often not good enough against burn, especially the good burn draws. If the burn player is relying on like Eidolon into a bunch of burn spells, sometimes even the turn 4 Tron can get there, but key is Tron, and then Wormcoil. Post sideboard, the key cards are Thragtusk and Nature's Claim. Those are their main sources of life gain. Thought-Knot Seer is kind of an honorable mention, allows them to play their turn 4 Tron game a little bit better. Both these cards play around the situations differently. Thragtusk, obviously, a main phase threat that leaves 2 bodies, can be hard to deal with. Nature's Claim, they have to have an artifact in play, so especially their stars and spheres, or if they have like an extra expedition map laying around, this can frequently be used to gain 4 life, so be mindful of your skull cracks if you happen to have it, that Nature's Claim can be a thing that they are holding on to, as well as it does blank Eidolon if they're on one of the stars, spheres, scrying, Ancient Stirrings kind of draws, so something to be mindful of. Finally, what's Tron's game plan? Game 1, basically, as we've already kind of discussed, get Tron on 3, have a payoff. Their games kind of go Wormcoil and Prey. Hope the burn player can't kill them before they can attack with Wormcoil Engine, or if they have turn 3 Tron on the play, Karn can sometimes come down, take them off of a land or 2, make it difficult for burn to play all their spells, and then follow up with like a Ulamog or something to clear out their lands, and just kind of win the game from there. That is something that can happen, but generally, more often than not, the threat you have to dodge as the burn player on turn 3 Tron is Wormcoil Engine. Post board, keys, life gain, Thragtusk and Nature's Claim, and then after you gain some life, get out of range, just get them dead. Wormcoil Engine, Thought-Knot Seer, Thragtusk, obviously pretty efficient ways to beat down, or just take them off their land so they can't cast their spells. So things like Karn and Ulamog, which likely Ulamog isn't in their deck in the post board games, but those are the key things. Take them off their resources, or get them dead as quickly as possible after you've gained some life. So you need to blunt their early assault, and then get your Thragtusks and Wormcoils busy chipping away at their life totals. Beyond that, as I've already mentioned in the video, this is a fairly favorable matchup for burn, at least in the past. If the London Mulligan rule goes into effect, I think the matchup gets a little bit closer, because Tron will more reliably have Tron on turn 3, as long as the Tron player is mulliganing appropriately. So this is a matchup that's currently probably 60-40 or greater for burn. Might get a little bit closer if the London Mulligan rule goes into effect. But anyways, this has been John for MTG Nexus. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel.